Everybody come see us on tour. We'll be in Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
I want to ask you, because you have dealt with these people from the inside. I said throughout the election that if Donald Trump is allowed to become the president, I have to reevaluate my understanding of the deep state. Now, some have said that partly because of the influence the Pentagon and the intelligence services have on Hollywood, we have a really inflated sense of their competence. So some people would say they did try with the incident in Pennsylvania and such, but they just failed. Do we have a functioning democracy? Because I think a lot of us in this space assume that in the end, if the deep state does not want someone to be president, they won't be. And some people answer that, yeah, well, no, Trump is an op. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It seems to me they did not want him. So are they not as powerful as a lot of people in this space think? Do they have less control than people think they have?
They have total control, except for one thing. The American people. As ugly as we are as a nation, and we are pretty damn ugly. There's a whole bunch of faults out there. But the American people, we're amazing because, you know, we believe in what we believe. Like I said, there's people out there that believe in things that I don't believe, that I don't support, but they believe in them. And they believe in them with all the sincerity that they muster. And we can argue and debate, but that kernel of individualism that says, I am somebody that matters. My opinions matter. And the vehicle that empowers that opinion is the election booth. And for so long, we have put people up there for office that are the same. And it seemed very difficult to believe in democracy because no matter who you voted for, you were getting the same outcome every single time. My God, America had a choice this time. Now, I told you I wasn't happy about this choice. I am not a, MAGA, rah, rah, rah guy. Not at all. There's a lot about Donald Trump that bothers me a whole bunch. But what doesn't bother me about Donald Trump is when he says, I want to bring down the establishment. Now, I believed him back when he ran the first time. I was like, yeah, do it. Bring it down. He didn't. He admits he didn't know how to govern. He admits that he brought in bad people. He said he learned a lot. And look at this. He wasn't supposed to be on the ballot. They did their best to put this man in jail. The lawfare that was run against him, I can't complain at all because nothing, what happened to me ain't nothing compared to what they did to him. Coming at him with, full barrels, Gatling guns, the whole thing. He wasn't supposed to be, not only wasn't he supposed to be on the ballot, he was supposed to be in jail. Donald Trump wasn't even supposed to be whispered. And here he is, president-elect. Why? Because millions of Americans said enough is enough, and they voted for this guy. Democracy is alive and well and living. And now they have voted in a man who can put Matt Gaetz in as Attorney General and destroy the Department of Justice and the FBI. Could put in this revolutionary major, I can't pronounce his name, as Secretary of Defense, who's going to just come in and turn that place upside down. Marco Rubio, look, we know what Marco Rubio was. Marco Rubio was Adelson's widow giving Donald Trump $100 million because Adelson's husband made Marco Rubio his pet project. They wanted him to be vice president. Trump said no. She said, you want this money? He's got to have a cabinet position. He gave him the State Department. Rubio will have no influence, no power, no nothing. Donald Trump, again, people who doubt me, Donald Trump tried to denuclearize North Korea in his first term. Everybody was against it. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, dead set against it. John Bolton, dead set against it. Dan Coats, Director of National Intelligence, dead set against it. The Secretary of Defense, dead set. Everybody against it. Trump did it anyways. That's how Trump operates. Marco Rubio is on the cabinet. He'll hold that position. Ask Rex Tillerson how much independent foreign policy he was able to implement as Secretary of State. And the answer is none, because Donald Trump is a top-bottom guy. Normally, I wouldn't like this. But if you want to change the way we operate around the world, if you believe that NATO is evil, as I do, Donald Trump is the man to solve this problem. If you believe the Department of Justice is the greatest criminal enterprise in America today, as I do, Donald Trump's the man that can reform it. If you believe the FBI is nothing more than a white version of the Bloods and the Crips, it's a gang with badges and guns, and it needs to be done away with. Donald Trump's the man to do it. We need a revolution, and Donald Trump's the man that can do it. The deep state did everything they could, including putting a guy on the roof to fire 5 rounds at his head to stop this from happening. And we have 2 months to go, and it's not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. If they could pull the trigger in Butler, Pennsylvania, they can pull the trigger again. But if this man can survive, the will of the people would have been manifested. Democracy is alive and well, and there's a chance that we can destroy this establishment, this deep state, this criminal enterprise that is threatening to undo everything America stands for. And Donald Trump's the guy that can do it. Again, I come down to that meme, 1 in 14 million chance, but that's one chance we didn't have with the other people.
So well, I swear, oh, sorry, Jimmy, go ahead.
So, Scott, you would disagree with that notion when people say that Donald Trump is a psyop and there's no difference and there isn't going to be any difference. Because I've had a million people who I respect, say that's the very thing, that there's going to be no difference. And I'm like, so my answer to that was always, well, if they didn't try to kill him twice, I might agree with you. But they did try to kill him twice, and they did try to put him in jail for 3 years, and they did do lawfare, and they did do an FBI psyop on January 6th to criminalize him and make sure they did the same thing to Bolsonaro, and it worked. But they tried to do it to him, and it didn't. And so why would they do all these things if he is exactly the same, if it doesn't matter? Because because Peter Thiel is his donor. I mean, what? So, what do you say when people say things? To me, it just seems like those people are going out of their way to ignore obvious evidence of the deep state being upset with Donald Trump and wanting to eliminate him. What do you say to that?
Well, I just say exactly what you just said, though, Jimmy. It's so obvious. First of all, look at the panic that's going on right now in the Department of Justice, in the Pentagon, everywhere, in every government institution. If Donald Trump was a psyop, they'd all be going, oh, we're unhappy, but we're looking forward to the next 4 years and continuing my career path towards retirement. They're all saying, I'm quitting. You got the DOJ and the FBI hiring lawyers right now because they know they committed crimes and they know they're going down. He's not a psyop. He's the real deal. You can't be involved in America today doing what Donald Trump has done. Business of that level, interfacing with the banks. Look, he said, I was the inside. I took advantage of every tax loophole. I was at every fundraiser there was. I shook hands with everybody there was, because that's how you got to rise up into the power. But he was not your traditional politician, because he wasn't a politician until he decided to run for president. He's rubbed elbows with people that you say are the establishment. But his behavior is what counts more than his resume. The fact is, this is a revolutionary. This is a man who's going to take a flamethrower to this edifice we call this rotting edifice of American democracy. And you just have to look at the fact of everything they tried to do to take this man down. And maybe Russell, you talk about competence and incompetence. I'm somebody who doesn't believe in conspiracy theories, especially when they involve the government. And my simple reason is I've been around the government enough to know that they're not competent enough to pull off half the conspiracy theories they've been accused of pulling off. The government is full of incompetent people. But
so you're saying it's that whole Mission Impossible myth. We just assume if they wanted to take him out, they could. And you're saying you're assuming more competence than they have.
Correct. First of all, you have to understand, because Donald Trump is real, because the MAGA movement's real. If you had an FBI agent just walk up and pop him in the head, that would be a civil war. So they have to do things, and they were incompetent. They almost pulled it off, though. We keep calling them incompetent. Donald Trump's head should not be on his shoulders. His head should have been turned into pink mist. It should have evaporated live on TV. That's what should have happened. The shooter took a shot that was a kill shot. And if Donald Trump hadn't twitched, Donald Trump would be dead. And the psyop would be over. You don't kill a president-elect if it's a psyop. And so everybody's going, well, there's some, I won't use her name, but there's a lady out there that I normally respect, but she She called it his ear boo-boo. I said, really? Do you want to have a high-velocity round zing by your head and just call it an ear boo-boo? You do understand that his head been in any other position besides the one that it was in, it would have pink misted. He would be dead. It ain't an ear boo-boo. It's a act of divine intervention, not because God thinks Donald Trump should be president, but whatever happened, he's alive today. It's more than an ear boo-boo. Somebody tried to kill him. And they failed not because their plan didn't work. They failed because Donald Trump twitched, an unpredictable twitch that saved his life. But he should be dead. He should be dead. Everything they've done, I don't think the U.S. courts have ever taken on somebody this complex before. It's not incompetence. They don't know how to deal with Donald Trump. And so they have the FBI go into his house. They have Jack Smith come up. But Donald Trump has lawyers. He has money. He can go into the court and he can tie it down. The judges aren't. You see, the judge in New York was totally unconstitutionally aligned against him. But it didn't work because they don't know how to deal with Donald Trump. It's not that the deep state didn't try. They've just never had to deal with this situation before. They've never had to deal with a genuine, honest to God revolutionary coming in and challenging the entire system. Donald Trump's not even playing a game here. I mean, the only game that he buys into is the Zionist game, but everybody buys into the Zionist game. But everything else, he's 100% against the deep state, against the establishment. This isn't a psyop. This is the real deal.
And so I also see when the establishment, the deep state, even you talk about every part of government. Well, even the people who run the government, like the people who run the FDA and the CDC, which we know is big pharma, they had an emergency meeting the day after Donald Trump got elected president because they were in a horrible panic. So again, it just seems to me, so, Tulsi, you have people calling her a Russian agent again. You have people saying, you have AOC going on MSNBC saying that Tulsi's pro-war, even though she's a Zionist. Again, that seems to be the one thing we can't fix. But this is a sea change. Tulsi and Bobby Kennedy and
Zionist.
Matt Gaetz. This would be a sea change in the way government works, right?
This is the beauty of it. This government that is fundamentally broken, this government that no matter what we do in American democracy is unchangeable. Because again, I tell the story. 2 years ago, I went to Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty reunion. This was a big deal back in the 1980s, the first treaty to get rid of nuclear weapons. And I was an inspector on the ground, the first inspector on the ground in the Soviet Union. I'm pretty proud of that. All of 27 years old. But yeah, I was young. But we gathered together. And these are people that are literally living legends, people who were the guys that made arms control what it is. And we brought in a guest speaker who was from the Biden administration responsible for arms control. The speaker is asked to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to use the speaker's name. But the speaker was asked a question by a very experienced arms control professional, retired Air Force colonel. And he asked this speaker, he said, Joe Biden ran on a policy of sole purpose. And what that means is right now we have a nuclear posture, a nuclear policy that says we can use nuclear weapons preemptive anytime we want to against any target we want to, no matter what. And sole purpose is the sole purpose of Americans' nuclear weapons is deterrence, and that we will not use nuclear weapons unless we are attacked by nuclear weapons. And Biden ran on this policy. And so he came in as president and nothing happened. Not only did nothing happen, he actually put out a posture that continued the, doubled down on nuclear preemption. So the question was asked, why? He's the commander in chief. Why didn't he change? You know what the answer was? The interagency wasn't ready for this change. And everybody in the room, these are people who've been in government forever. We all looked at each other and went, Did you vote for the interagency? I didn't vote for the interagency. Did you? Did you? Did you? What do you mean the interagency? And the interagency is just a euphemism for a process where all the departments of the government come together and work.
Right.
But it's become a permanent, unelected body of civil servants, a permanent, unelected body of civil servants that runs this country. The interagency wasn't ready to implement the policy that the commander-in-chief said he wanted implemented. The interagency, I'm not talking about Congress. We vote Congress in. They're supposed to ask questions. The interagency has no rights. The interagency is nothing. But they stopped it. This is what has to go away. So whenever you hear, oh, they're going to quit, they're going to resign, good. Good, because they're the ones that prevent any change from happening. They are the evil, corrupt, unelected thing that is destroying America. It is a cancerous tumor that's wrapped itself around the aorta of America, the lifeblood of democracy, and they're going to just strangle it until we die. But now we got a heart surgeon named Donald Trump coming in, and he's going to slice them out and throw them away, and we might have a chance to live. 1 in 14 million.
Everybody come see us on tour. We'll be in Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.